The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, UNU Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Yes, hello everyone. It's 8:03 in New York, and you are listening to All You Can Eat, the podcast about deliciousness. I'm Rob Rosenthal, your host. Excited to be here this evening, as always, for episode number 45 of All You Can Eat. Love that. Busy, active, interesting show tonight. A lot to get to, including a couple of guests, one of whom is on standby. And Dana Rebmann is her name. I'll introduce you to her in a few minutes. But tonight, one of the delicious things that we're going to discuss is travel, which I love and which Dana does professionally. Expert, writer, broadcaster, all good things. We'll get to that. Before that, it is the 13th day of February, meaning that tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Fellas, don't forget. And I want to start by offering thanks to the folks that bring us tonight's show. They go by the name of Butcher Box, and I'm going to tell you a little about this. I spent plenty of years doing stand-up comedy in New York. I have spent 20 odd years making presentations around the world. And one of the things that I either always did or always didn't do was eat prior to making a presentation, appearance, whatever. So even when it comes to the podcast, my kind of normal, my normal kind of routine is not to eat before I go on. Yet, but I As those of you who have listened before know that I like to prepare an adult beverage as part of the show. And feel free, by the way, if you're not driving around and you're listening to us live right now, feel free to fill up a glass with whatever your favorite adult beverage is and enjoy. Now tonight, what happens is, turns out I'm making dinner for a couple of peeps in the family, and I end up making some salmon. I don't even like salmon that much. Honestly, of the top 10 fishes in my life, I don't know that, fish, because I'm not even sure you can say fishes. I'm not sure that's an actual English word, but fish. Of the top 10 fish in my life, I don't think salmon shows up on the list unless, it's the kind that kind of gets, smoked or, salmon lox, that kind of thing. But I have discovered two things, my friends. One is maybe the greatest marinade that I've ever prepared in my life. Super easy, crazy tasty, and it goes on the salmon before you cook it, and then while you grill it, I have a grill pan. I throw some more of it on, and by the time it was ready, and I'm only going back 20 minutes now, the skin underneath the salmon was crispy. There were grill marks on the actual meaty part of the salmon. And the marinade, which is a combination of tamari and mirin, so you have salt and sweet, and don't worry, you can buy it in any supermarket. Either tamari, which is essentially kind of a soy, like a gluten-free soy, and then you get mirin, which is like a sweetened. I wonder what they make mirin out of. It doesn't matter, it's sweet, and so I use a combination of the tamari and the mirin, 3-to-1. 3 tamari, 1 tamari. I throw in some garlic and fresh ginger. And I'm going to tell you something, kids, and maybe a shot of sesame oil if you have. That goes on that salmon. And if you like salmon, I dare you to find a better tasting piece of salmon than that. So I said that there were two things that made it unique. One was that I put the marinade on. The second is I have salmon in the house because of tonight's sponsor, the people from Butcher Box. So Butcher Box is interesting to me because, we live in a time right now when more and more people are actually having food delivered to their home. Sometimes the food is fully prepared and you can order it off your, whatever it is, your Postmates, your Uber Eats, whatever it is, or just a straight up delivery. That's fine. But what we're also seeing in the world is delivery services that will send, actual fruit, vegetable, fish, protein, cereal, whatever to your home. Sometimes in a way that's semi-prepared and allows you to complete it, and sometimes it may just be, raw ingredients, but ingredients of interest, of quality, and that kind of thing. So I mentioned this about ButcherBox because they sent me a sample of their stuff. And their stuff basically, I don't know, it's like surf and turf. Like you can get, steak, pork, chicken, but you can also get salmon. So they sent me this salmon, and it comes to you like hard frozen. And so I took it out of the freezer yesterday, and I just made it now. And as a guy that does not even love salmon, would never actually even purchase salmon, because there's other fish that I would prefer to have, this salmon is great. It's not just my marinade. The actual raw ingredient is great. The salmon is great. As I always said, and I've always instructed, get the best ingredients you can. Don't mess them up too much. So it starts with high quality salmon. Thank you, ButcherBox. And then, I gave it the simple marinade. You can use soy if you don't want to use tamari. The mirin is great because it gives it that sweetness, which works juxtaposed against the salt from the tamari. And then garlic and ginger. And if you happen to have a little bit of sesame oil, because a little goes a long way, right? Just a touch. You can put that in there as well. Paint it on, rub it on, marinate it in, and then grill that stuff, until it's like, you could look at it and it looks ready, and you can't, I don't think you could undercook it. It's so good that even if it came out like pink, on the inside, which is how I like it, great. And even if you want to cook it, I'm just saying that, you can actually look at it and go, that feels ready. 2 minutes on each side, 2.5, whatever. Beautiful food. Now, I have also had from ButcherBox, and this is funny too, I've also had their chicken breasts. Now, anybody who has listened to me before knows that of all the different parts of the chicken, I have the least interest, zero that is, in chicken breasts. I find them, generally speaking, devoid of taste. Now, these chicken breasts were excellent, just excellent. And the way you make them excellent is to keep it simple, right? Rub it up with a little olive oil, or put that in a pan, because you need a little lubrication so that it doesn't stick, and hit it up with salt, pepper, I don't know, whatever else you like. I mean, whatever your favorite flavors are. I like a seasoned salt. You may want some oregano. You could give it some red pepper flakes, whatever your favorite kind of, flavors, and grill it like real quick. This was really good chicken. They send along a steak. In fact, I don't want to misrepresent. I have from these people, and I've only tried now, the breasts of chicken, the steak, and the salmon, all good. They sent some ground beef, haven't had it yet. They sent some chuck roast, have not had it. Pork chops, boneless. Now, I haven't had them. I love pork. I happen to like them on the bone, but we'll try these. The strips we had, a box of bacon, haven't opened yet, and that salmon, which I'm just fantastic. ButcherBox.com. If you go there, you will discover what they say, which is 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, and heritage breed pork directly to your door. And that they didn't even mention that they're sending awesome salmon when it's in season. So essentially their business model is to get the best stuff that they can get their hands on that's local to you, and then deliver it to you. ButcherBox.com. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Now, with Valentine's Day tomorrow, let me give you a couple of factoids. Number one is the holiday in general is kind of fraught, if you will. I'm not a fan of Valentine's Day just because I think it's been like so super commercialized. I love love. I believe that everybody should spread love regularly and as often as possible. There's nothing better than that. It's a beautiful thing to do. So any holiday, by the way, that celebrates love, I'm all in. And further to that, the fact that we think about chocolate, and candies and flowers and food. This is all good. I want to shout out to the fellas here. This is a beautiful opportunity to do something for whoever the significant other in your life is. Wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, I don't care. You know, you want to express, you want to show. Anything you do is good. If you're contemplating a card, that's nice. If you're going to give some flowers, by all means. If you're going to take somebody out to dinner, that's a lovely gesture. But you're talking to a guy that cooks, so here's the thing. Even if you're not proficient at the cooking, you throw together a little meal for someone that you care about. And even if it's not great, even if it is not a beautiful piece of salmon that has been marinated with a fantastic vinaigrette, or a simple piece of steak, or a grilled chicken, whatever it is that is your pleasure, whatever it is that is your specialty, even if it's not good, trust me when I tell you that that people appreciate that you've at least gone to the effort to cook them something. So that's what I want to say about that. So do that. Anybody. I mean, I'm saying it to the boys, but it applies to anybody. If you have the opportunity to make something for somebody, it makes a difference. If you need, by the way, I'm going to take it a step further, because we have 24 hours until you're sitting down with whoever your other person is. If you need some ideas, if you need a recipe, if you need an answer to a question, you get in touch with me, Rob. How are you going to do that? Well, you're just going to go Google Short Order Dad, and you can find me on Twitter. You'll find me on Instagram. You can Short Order Dad at Gmail me and go, hey, Rob, I'm cooking for somebody tonight. What do I need to know? What do I need to make? If you want to see how I really feel about Valentine's Day, you can go to Huffington Post. I wrote this article let me just look back on it here. When did I write this? 2014. So we're looking at 5 years ago today. I published an article, Why No One Loves Valentine's Day. If you're interested, HuffPost, search Robert Rosenthal or Why No One Loves Valentine's Day. Now, that's that. Here's a couple of factoids before we get on the line with our friend Dana and talk travel. Because what's sexier than that, by the way? The one thing that's actually better than a meal is if you can go somewhere with somebody. I mean, that'd be great. So we'll talk about that. What's more important, food or love? Here's the data. Let me rip it off the wall here. Hang on. I literally am working in a studio where I get to rip signs off the wall. What is better? So what's more important, food or love? 1 in 5 men, that's your 20%, have ended a relationship over dietary differences. I don't even know what that means or how to respond to that. 1 in 5 men have ended a relationship over dietary differences, compared to just 11% of women who have done the same. So twice as many men as women will dump someone because they don't like what they eat. Stupid men. And one final note on Valentine's Day, by the way. Just 51% of Americans plan to do something for Valentine's Day this week. 51% of Americans plan to do something for Valentine's Day this week, down from 63% in 2007, according to the survey by the National Retail Federations. And here's what I'm going to say, people. Whatever you do something, I say, and I mean, again, I don't want to, you get a card, you get flowers, good for you. That's better than the other 49% who are doing nothing. But those things feel to me perfunctory. That you just kind of, it's a path of least resistance. But you make a little something at home. Come on. You toss a little something together. You could make chocolate covered strawberries or chocolate bark using only essentially 2 ingredients. Get in touch with Rob. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to my friend Dana. Dana, hang on right there, because somewhere right in front of me, oh my God, my organizational skills are just so crazy. I swear to you, there's a paper loaded with what I want to say. Oh, hang on, that's not even you. I got plenty to say about Butcher Box. Where did you go? All right, I'll tell you what. I want to show you, Dana. Wait a second, maybe not even that. It's unbelievable. I was saying to Dana before the podcast that of the 45 podcasts, not one without a technical f up, and so there you go. I don't have Dana's info, and here's the beauty of it: I don't even need it, and I'll tell you why. Because Dana and I are going to talk about travel, and the reason is because Dana is a travel expert, and not just any travel expert. The woman writes about travel and travels, and then broadcasts about travel for Kron TV. This is KRON in San Francisco, big media market, and Dana's up there on the screen talking about travel. So she is a travel expert. Dana Rebmann, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, and it sounds like you are lovely too.
I'm feeling good about things. Mostly, two things, Dana. One, that we're alive and that we're well and that things are generally good, and two, that we get to, have a conversation and put it out into the world. So I'm feeling happy in general.
I'll always love talking about traveling. There's nothing bad about that at all.
All right, Dana Rebmann, ladies and gentlemen, knows from travel. So, Dana, what I like to do is I like to start at the beginning. Tell the folks where you grew up.
Oh, where I grew up. Born and raised on Long Beach Island, which is a small island off of southern New Jersey.
Yeah, and a fantastic place for anybody along the East Coast. Now, you could listen to this podcast from anywhere in the world. So just to locate people, on the East Coast, you have New Jersey, and you have what they call the New Jersey Shore, because so much of New Jersey runs right against the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. And Long Beach Island is literally, Dana, you could describe it more, but it's literally like a little strip of island on the Jersey Shore, and people love this place.
Yeah, it is. It's a tiny little place. I mean, even people that are from the East Coast may not know where it is. You say Long Beach Island, and they go, "Wait a minute, Long Island, New York?" No, tiny little island, 18 miles long. Its widest point is about a half mile. Traffic lights go on Memorial Day weekend. They go off Labor Day weekend. It's just a different way of doing it. We call it the Causeway, which is essentially kind of our bridge that gets us from the mainland to the island. And great place to grow up as a kid. Ate a ton of fish. Right, so I enjoyed hearing about your salmon marinade. I'm taking notes.
Okay.
But no, just a great place to grow as a kid. Moved away when I went to college and don't live there anymore, but still have a ton of family there and get back every summer. It is absolutely one of my favorite places to go in the summer, hands down.
And the funny thing is, apparently you're not the only one. Now I pop over to the Jersey Shore with some regularity in the summer because I have family there. And I'm going to tell you this: I never make it as far. I've only been to Long Beach Island once, but you fall in love. People love Long Beach Island. Like when you think of the Jersey Shore, there's a whole lot of places you can go. But people love Long Beach Island because, like Fire Island here coming off of New York, you literally you have a causeway. Like Fire Island, you kind of have to take a ferry. But there's still something about being on an island which is unbelievable as an experience.
Yeah,
right?
LBI is a little, I'm going to say, calmer than a lot of the other popular Jersey Shore destinations. You have Ocean City, you have Wildwood. Everybody kind of has their favorite, so to speak.
Right.
But we don't have a boardwalk, so it's calmer. We don't have a lot of amusement rides. We don't have that atmosphere. You walk from the street right onto the beach, and that's just where we spend our days, or you walk right into the bay. It's one of two things, and depending on where you are in the island, you can be from the ocean to the bay, and in a couple minutes. So it's just a great little slice of the Jersey Shore, and we're a little different. We have Old Barney as our lighthouse. That's a real popular destination. You can climb it. I think it's 217 steps, if I remember correctly, right. And get great views. But it's just, hands down, it's just a great place to be in the summer. I'm lucky that I've been to some amazing beaches around the world, but it is still my favorite. I was born and raised in Ship Bottom, and I go back every summer.
Love that. Now, and now here's the thing. There are two questions that I ask. I ask everybody one question about their childhood, but I'm going to ask you two because it's relevant. So the question that I ask everybody about their childhood is kind of like what they ate, what they remember, kind of growing up on in terms of, in terms of what what their experience was with food. But in your case, also, I want to put a part B on that question, Dana, which is, where did you discover your kind of love of travel?
Okay, both good questions. Well, because of where I grew up as a kid on an island, we ate fish. We ate a ton of fish, and I will also say, expressing bias. I mean, I grew up in a restaurant family, so that impacted what I ate as well. But I mean, the restaurant was seafood. I mean, that was just what it was. So I knew as a kid, I knew how to do king crab. I knew how to clean crabs. I knew how to marinate salmon. All of that fun stuff. And I've tried to teach my girls, because knowing how to clean crab is a talent. It's absolutely a talent. Exactly right. Knowing how to shuck oysters, how to shuck clams on the half shell, that type of thing. So that's the type of stuff I just grew up doing, whether it was in my kitchen at home or whether it was at the restaurant because I was working that day. So definitely did not eat a lot of meat, did not have a lot of exposure to foods like Mexican food. I don't think I ever had an avocado until I moved to California when I went to college. So, and I'm sure they were there. I just don't remember ever coming across one. So it is amazing how, where you live impacts what you eat. Also where I live, we didn't have fast food on the island, so that changed things too. There's a couple tiny places now. I think now we have a Dunkin' Donuts on the island. But you cooked, I guess is the short story. You cooked, your mom cooked, you cooked, your dad cooked, and we ate very, very well. And as far as, what inspired my love for travel, that's a really good question. And I don't know that I can tell you that there was one incident. My mom loved to travel. So I was fortunate in that I got to travel a fair amount when I was a kid. I made kind of a big leap when I went to college in Los Angeles. I flew from one coast to the next kind of on my own and said, the idea of being in shorts in December was just really appealing to me.
And you never came back. You never came back, did you?
No, never moved back full time. No, left to go to college, spent my 4 years in college. And then, my first job took me to Florida. My second job took me to San Francisco, and I've been in California ever since. So now that said, I do get back every summer. I carve time out absolutely every summer to go back and see friends and see family and spend some time on the beach. But no, I never went back full time. So, but yeah, I think it's just one of those things. There are some people that are much more happier sticking close to home, and that's fine. Exploring your own neighborhood and exploring your own state. There's a valid premise to that, just discovering new things. I think maybe when I took that leap to go off to college and I realized I could do it, it was inspiring to say, well, hey, I can go a lot further too. Did some studying abroad when I was in college, I guess rite of passage for those college kids, and just never looked back. I never imagined that I would be able to make a career out of it though. If that makes any sense. When I first started, I was really doing a lot of more hard news type things, and then it just kind of evolved and happened.
I want to get to that. I want to ask you first, where did you spend time abroad when you studied abroad? Where were you?
I was based in London. Based in London, so in other words, a really good jumping off point to go just about anywhere, but based in London for 6 months.
What was your, in that period, can you identify your most memorable food experience?
Ooh, my most memorable food experience.
From 6 months in basically in and around Europe, did anything kind of jump out as like a revelation or wow, this is unbelievable?
Well, really good Indian food. Good Indian food.
In London, I'm in London, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I discovered French fries and mayonnaise.
Right.
French fries and mayonnaise. That was. And to this day, I still love French fries and mayonnaise.
Yeah,
so that was.
I know that's it. I totally hear you on that. It's an interesting one because we don't, normally think of it that way, but I guess if you're in England or even to some extent Belgium or wherever, they like the mayo on the fry.
They love the mayo on the fries, and I'm all for it. Absolutely all for it. You know, if you order it or you ask for it, and anywhere in the States, they kind of look at you funny, but you know, just about anywhere in Europe, oh yeah, okay, no big deal. But no, absolutely, that would probably be the one that I lean to. And I mean, you know, it was one of those things. It's all about timing too. You know, I was in theory a poor college student, so I wasn't necessarily going out to nice dinners.
Of
you know,
course.
we were eating on the cheap and eating on the fly and the move and that type of thing. But every minute of it was absolutely phenomenal. And I have two college age kids now, and one of them is actually studying abroad right now in France. And I absolutely love getting texts and pictures and, you know, FaceTimes from her where she's like filling me in on something new she's discovered or something, you know, something absolutely amazing she's done, or, you know, oh yeah, we jumped on a bus and we went here, or, you know, tomorrow she's hopping on a flight and she's going to, it's spring break, they're going to Portugal. So it's absolutely fantastic, the things you can do.
I can't even begin to tell you not only how much I agree with you, but how much I can relate, and I'm going to tell you why, assuming that's of interest to anybody else other than you and me. I, too, have two daughters, one in college, one recently graduated, and what I'm going to tell people is, and they also, by the way, are like super kind of experienced travelers, because I, like you, my wife is in the travel business. I mean, we just love traveling. I spent 25 years in advertising, international travel. And I guess what I want to say to people is that one of the things that you're known for is that you very early on took your girls out to go traveling. Tell people about how and why and what, you know, what that was all about.
Well, well, there's a lot there. I mean, my husband kind of has the same travel bug that I do. So, you know, ever since we've been together, traveling was always incredibly important. We traveled together whenever we could, whenever vacation and finances allowed it. And, you know, when our first daughter came along, we really didn't want that to stop. I mean, there was no reason that it had to stop. And in the beginning, you know, when they're babies and they're not walking, they're really easy because you can pretty much take them anywhere without much to do about anything. I mean, okay, granted, yeah, you need to pass some stuff, but when they can't move yet and they can't talk and they can't tell you how they feel about things, much easier than when they're teenagers, at least in my opinion, you know, that type of thing. But I guess it's one of those things, you know, because we were in California, most of my family was on the East Coast. Most of my husband's family was on the East Coast. We didn't have that, you know, drop the kid off at the grandparents option. So it was never an issue of, are they coming with us? It was, you know, where are we all going? Right. So it just kind of started when our first daughter came along, and when our second daughter came along, nothing ever changed. The first really, I guess what I would call big trip we did was our youngest was about to turn 2. So that would have made my oldest one about 4. And it was close to 3 weeks in Japan. And, you know, we had a baby backpack that, you know, we could put the smallest one in when she was exhausted. And we just went for it. We didn't overschedule ourselves. If, you know, somebody was having a bad day or if something got cut short, then so be it. It wasn't a big deal. Right. It was just the approach. And that was kind of the start of it all. It went well. It went really well. So we kind of just kept going. And that's the way we approached it, I guess, from day one with our girls, that, yeah, it's not easy, but it's definitely doable. And in the long term, it's worth every minute.
One follow up on that before we get into kind of the business of traveling and writing and broadcasting and producing, which you've done. And then I think, and then we could talk about like where you've been, but, what has been kind of the impact or the advantage to your girls having kind of, you know, been around? Can you sense that what that meant to them in some way in retrospect or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I mean, it depends on, how deep you want to go and that type of thing. I mean, I can tell you, I remember my daughter coming home from school. It was back in 6th grade. She's now a junior in college, but all excited because in history that day they had learned about like the caves of Lascaux and the Great Wall of China and all of these things. And she was able to raise her hand and tell her teacher about walking along the Great Wall of China.
That's great.
And it brings it into perspective that they have an understanding, they have a cultural understanding for how different. I mean, if you would ask my daughter what she was younger, but she'll still tell you how it was so different and how the families were different and how the kids that she met along the way and the grandparents that she met along the way, how different they were and how fascinated she was by it. And there's an appreciation that I think gets instilled when you take your kids on the road. One, they learn to appreciate other people that they meet along the way. And two, they also hopefully learn to appreciate where they call home, because oftentimes they're going to be very, very dramatically different. So I think that gets cemented very early on from an educational standpoint, and it follows them, if you want to go into academics, I think all the way through, because they just have a grasp because they've seen things or because they've tasted things or because they've met people along the way. And I think that helps engage them when they're reading about it in books, when they're listening to a teacher or to a professor lecture about it. It just brings everything full circle. From the perspective of looking at it now, my oldest, again, a junior in college, and she's abroad. It's so funny listening to her about her travels, and I think she understands. Well, maybe understands the wrong way to put it. She thinks maybe her parents are a little cooler than she did before. She understands what's involved with traveling. How it is not always easy, how things aren't always perfect, but at the end of the day, everything is good. If you've met someone along the way, if you've seen something phenomenal, maybe you've fallen in love with a new food that you've never experienced before. It's just all about enriching the lives we lead. And it's tough to go wrong, even on a bad day, even when your flight's late, even when you miss your connection, even when the restaurant is closed, you find something to love just about everywhere you go.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I could not agree more. I feel like it's some of the greatest experiences ever, and most memorable that you have with the family, and it are those when you're in some locale doesn't even have to be exotic. Just you're away
Absolutely.
from the norm. You're away from the routine. You're away, and you're together as a unit in a new environment. I cannot stress enough how important, significant, meaningful an experience it is to do that. So you and I
Absolutely.
Agree violently on that. So
yeah. And it's just real quick on that note, it's interesting. I have had people say, because I traveled with my kids when they were so young, well, they're not going to remember the Eiffel Tower. Why would you take them to Paris? And my argument has been, well, okay, they may not remember everything, but I'm going to remember it, don't I?
Yeah, exactly.
That's important.
Exactly. I'm laughing because I still will show my younger one pictures of when I strolled her around the sights of Rome in a stroller when she was 2 years old. And you're right, she doesn't consciously remember that, but there's something that's etched in the mind from that time. Anyway, the whole thing is all good. We agree. So, Dana, just again, it's kind of almost by way of introduction, but you do this on a professional level. You've produced shows. You write about it. You show up on the air there in San Francisco to talk about it. How did you get into the business, and what was that evolution like?
I am incredibly lucky. That's the easy answer. I am incredibly lucky. My background was television. I have a broadcast journalism degree. I started with CBS News in Florida, and then made the jump to San Francisco working with NBC. So my background was in television news. Did that pretty much full time. And when my kids came along, didn't want to work quite the crazy hours. So I started trying to freelance a little bit with some print and some online writing. That's when that was kind of coming in. It was a whole new world then. And it just started slowly, and just happened to be introduced to a gal who runs Ciao Bambino, and that focuses on family travel. And I was talking to her about a trip I had just taken with our kids. We had been in Spain for a couple weeks, and she says, "Hey, will you write me something about it?" And I'm like, "Sure, I can do that." And that is truly what kind of started the whole shebang. I loved writing about traveling with my kids and how to make it easier for other families that maybe were on the fence about it, or, scared of it, maybe. Introducing families to destinations that maybe they thought they couldn't go to. I mean, when we went to Japan, that's not necessarily what I would call maybe a common first trip for American families, at least, but the experience we gained from it could have been applied to, anywhere in the world. And I guess that's kind of the way I looked at it. I mean, my goal was, if I could get someone out there who read my piece to decide, yeah, we're taking a trip, we don't have to stay at home, then I had done my job.
Yeah.
And the fantastic part to the whole thing was I've gotten to go to all of these amazing places around the world. I have met incredible people. The people that I have met along the way are probably my favorite part of all of this. Just taking some time to stop and talk to people and how they tick, and how they live and how their life is different from yours is fascinating to me. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating, and that encompasses a lot, to how they eat, to how they approach their day, to the beautiful scenery they have in their backyard. It just makes you appreciate that the world is a wonderful big place, but it's not so big anymore because we can get there, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, where have you been lately? Like we're 6 weeks into this year. Where have you been, or not? I mean, like, what have you done over the last couple of months that's like fresh in your mind?
Yeah, that's fresh in my mind. December was a really busy month for me, which is a wonderful thing. It's the lead up to the holidays. I was in Ireland for a stretch, and then I came back from Ireland and headed down to the Caribbean. So I went from one extreme to the other. I'm a big fan of Ireland, and I think it's one of the more unappreciated spots in Europe. I think people tend to miss it, and I don't know why that is. I really don't know why that is, but it's absolutely stunning. The people are fantastic. The city of Dublin is just electric. You have such a great, young, hip, fun crowd that is kind of at its core. And even in the winter, when it's cold, it's absolutely stunning. And they know how to twinkle for the holidays. Does that make sense? They really do a lovely job, from decorations and lights and that type of thing. So I was in Dublin for a stretch, and then I got to go to the other side of the coast and stay at Ashford Castle. And that is the first time I've actually slept, I guess, in a castle. And I loved everything about that as well. It's a stunning property. Everything about it just makes you go, wow, when you pull up. And I got to walk with the Irish Wolfhounds in the morning. That was fantastic. Nice. Got a little wet along the way with them. But no, great places, again. And then I went from Ireland to the Caribbean. So I came home, changed suitcases, grabbed some, exchanged some turtlenecks for some shorts, and took off to wonderful spots like Barbados and St. Lucia and St. Martin and that type of thing. I'm a bit of a water rat. I like to be wet. I like to be in the ocean. I like to be swimming with things and that type of thing. So two very different, but two fantastic trips for very different reasons.
Yeah.
And spring training is the next one I'm headed off to in Arizona for the West Coast for the Giants and the A's. That's very popular in my neck of the woods because we have two teams, one in Mesa and one in Scottsdale. So that'll be my next flight, and I'm very much looking forward to that too, because it will be nice and warm there.
Yeah. Well, not that the weather where you are. Tell people that are you in Santa Rosa?
So I'm about an hour north of San Francisco. I'm in Sonoma County wine country.
Right.
And yeah, truthfully, I can't complain. Our winters are really very, very mild, especially in relation to the East Coast. This is our rainy season, and we are very, very wet. And we've had quite a few days of rain now, and they were saying we could get up to 3 inches of rain today. I don't know if we've gotten that much, but it has definitely been raining all day long.
Well, you're not going to get any sympathy from me or anybody else because you got Ireland and the Caribbean to look back on. I want to throw this in there because I a couple of years ago was sent around Ireland, and I could not kind of get over it myself. It was a weekend, and it was the idea of the trip was literally to kind of circle the country. And I tell you, I was like, the people are great, but the country is so beautiful, and the food was so great, and everything about it was great. And I think that I agree with you that of the places where people think about I'm going to go to Europe, and there's and there's Paris and there's Rome and there's Madrid or Barcelona or whatever. I think you're right that Ireland doesn't show up kind of as high on the list as it should for a place that's just so delightful, so great.
Yeah.
I also will express my envy. And again, Dana, I'm here basically in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, exactly 0.2 of a mile from where I was born. I can look at the hospital that I was delivered in from my bedroom window. I've gotten nowhere, but I will say that, except for the travel, that was pretty extensive. But I will say that where you are right now is so close to what I consider my very favorite part of the United States of America. I think that flying into San Francisco and going either an hour or so north or an hour or so south gets me at my absolute best. I have a cousin that's over by you in Sonoma. She lives in Petaluma.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we're out there a lot. Every time that I have gone down to the Monterey, Big Sur area, I'm blown away by whatever. I mean, walking among those kind of 300-foot redwood trees. What a great part of the country. And so, my question to you is this, because one of the other things about you that I know is not only that you get to go around, not only that you always brought your children, but you have a deep also appreciation for where you are, for exploring your local area. What if people fly out to your part of the world, what are some of the things that they would, do and look forward to doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm incredibly lucky. I live in an absolutely stunning stretch of country is the best way to put it. So where I am, obviously I'm close enough to San Francisco that's where a majority of people are going to fly into SFO. And truthfully, they can pick. They can come north and they can come up toward me, or they can head south. And you're pretty good at this. If you head south, the stunning coastline that will take you Monterey, Big Sur, it is like nothing I think most people have ever seen before. Yeah. And until you actually do it, you don't quite get it. But you get to that coastline and you get that first open view and you're like, wow, this is wow. And I would say that it's like that for me every time I get to go there as well. I don't think it ever gets old, even though it's in your backyard. I think folks tend to maybe take for granted what's in their backyard sometimes. And when I say take for granted, they don't take advantage of it. They don't go and they don't do it. And I think Big Sur is one of those spots. I actually did a big spot on Big Sur for a magazine not too long ago and went down to, check some things out and do some research. And it had only been about, I don't know, maybe a year, but I just kept finding myself going, wow, I have forgotten how amazing this is. So it works that way for locals too, I guess is the moral to my story. If you fly into SFO and you head north up to me, you're coming into wine country, and Sonoma County wine country is unique in its own respect because it's really, Sonoma County is ag. Its roots and its core are all about agriculture. Mm-hmm. And wine is big, but we've got more than just wine. And that, I think, creates a wine country that's much more relaxed and laid back in how we do things. You can go wine tasting and head out toward the coast here. We have redwoods here as well. It's Armstrong Woods, not nearly as famous as Muir Woods, but if you want to put them toe to toe, I think equally beautiful. So, pick what you want to do. Do you want to go kayaking on the Russian River? Do you want to walk through redwoods? Do you want to taste wine? Whatever your mood is, you can kind of do it here. And I'm a big advocate at the television station, the travel segments I do. I try and spotlight things close to home. Sure. Because people forget that, okay, yeah, they're just a half an hour away, but they're there and they forget to do them. Yeah. Because I didn't grow up here, maybe I have a different perspective too, but I have a ton of friends that are natives. They've never walked across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Right. And even your
right.
friend Rob has by bike into, I guess, Sausalito, wherever you go. Well,
yeah,
let me before we go, two quick ones. One, what's on the bucket list? Like, where haven't you been that you're most looking forward to?
Well, I haven't been on safari yet, and I'm headed in April, and I am incredibly excited about that.
Where are you going exactly?
I'm sorry?
Where are you going exactly?
It's Tando Safari. It's a private reserve, and yeah, I am testing gear. I am putting together everything I could possibly need. I think I have more cameras now than I ever had in my lifetime. That is definitely something I'm incredibly excited about. I have a trip to Tahiti.
Oh wow, that's beauty.
Yeah, that's another really big one. And like I said earlier, I love being wet. I'm a big fan of getting in the water and seeing what's underneath the surface. So I'm very excited about that. Probably my favorite place that I have traveled to in the world is the Galapagos Islands. Wow. So, and I was wet every day I was there. So that kind of tells you, I guess, how I tick. I have no problem. I kind of got into a tug of war with a sea lion. He liked my camera and he decided he was going to try and take off with it. And I was like, oh no. So, but we had a whole lot of fun doing it, and the footage was phenomenal. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I do. But yeah, and again, spring training's coming up. I'm very excited about that. I'm meeting up with my daughter that is studying in France. We're meeting in Munich, Germany. Nice. So that'll be a fun trip as well. Lots of great things to look forward to, and equally excited about all of them, truthfully.
Well, I am very excited for you. It's great to catch up with you. In fact, we should do it again sometime, just so that we can review where we met on the Oregon coast, because that was fantastic in its own right.
Absolutely.
And tell people just where they can find your work. Send them to what's your best place for people to find your stuff?
Probably the best thing is just I have a website. It's just danarebmann.com.
Okay.
And that'll have just about everything that I'm up to these days, from the television broadcast to the print work and the online work. You'll find it all there.
Beautiful. Okay, everybody, it's Dana Rebmann. That's REBMANN.com. You can find Dana there. I just want to say delightful to speak with you, and thanks for doing it, and have a great time on safari and in Tahiti. I mean, come on, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Take care.
Ciao. Wow. That's exciting. Well, I promised you we're going to get some expertise, and there you got it. Now, in the very short time that we have remaining, I ask you whether or not you remember those little Necco kind of sweetheart things, those little candies. that came wrapped up and they had lovely messages on them. Well, you can't get them this year because that company went out of business. Another company went and bought them, but they couldn't produce enough in time. So I had a conversation with somebody, with Allie Craig. Allie Craig, that's who I think it is. I had a conversation with Allie Craig, and here's that conversation. Cut to the subject for today, which is related to Valentine's Day tomorrow. In that, talking, if I'm not mistaken, Allie, about Necco wafers, are we not?
Well, about Necco and not having those beautiful sweetheart candies with the sweet little messages on them this year.
All right, I'm pretty sure that they have a high degree of awareness, but tell people who might not know, what are Necco wafers?
Well, we've all seen those Necco wafer hearts where they have little messages on them, and it's kids in school. That was like the one candy everyone got. They were in those cute little boxes back in the day, and they were just the ones that everyone kind of wanted. They may not have been the tastiest little candy ever, but they were cute, and they reminded us of that someone maybe cared about us because they had fun little sayings of, "You caught my eye," and other kind of little cute sayings that just made us all smile.
Yes, that's exactly right. I recall them well. They came in a package. I feel like it was wrapped on both ends, and inside were like a whole bunch of flat, multicolored wafers. And I also recall from what it is that you just said that they were essentially tasteless. They were devoid of any really kind of taste other than the semblance of sugar. But their winning formula was that they had lovely little, sayings on them. Now, so I just repeated what you said, but I guess the question is, what happened to them? The company went out of business?
The company went out of business, and no one bought up that special recipe for these wafer cookies. And now, this Valentine's Day, they're nowhere to be found. You can't get the cute little heart or the circle cookies with the sayings on them anymore. They're not available this Valentine's Day season.
Now, of course, that's profoundly disappointing and will be to many people because I am going to assume, I don't know if you know the exact date, those things were around for a very long time, were they not?
I want to say they were in the Depression, like that's around the era where they began, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So
okay.
It also explains why they taste the way they do, not super delicious.
Yeah.
But they've been in American culture, in the candy culture, literally for decades. Most of baby boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Yers, we all grew up on seeing and having these candies every Valentine's Day season.
All right, so the two questions are, and I feel that you can answer these. Number one, so my understanding is that some other company went and bought the the whole factory infrastructure in a sense so that they could reintroduce it, replicate it, whatever. Am I correct about that?
Yes, it has been purchased, but the problem is that the new organization cannot and could not get these candies developed in time for this Valentine's Day season. So they're saying we're going to get them next year, but this year we are out of luck when it comes to being able to give our sweetheart a sweetheart.
Understood. Okay, and what is your, do you have some kind of professional perspective on that?
Well, here's the thing. They're not tasty. We know these aren't tasty candies, but why they work so well and why people still purchase them year after year is because they do three things. One, it's pure nostalgia because we all grew up with them. It's almost kind of like the candy corns at Halloween. You don't like them anymore, but you keep buying them because it's what you knew when you were a kid. And we all are hardwired for nostalgia. Secondly, we all want to be able to tell somebody something that maybe we're not brave enough to say because biologically, like, oh my gosh, if I tell this person I have a crush on what I really think, what if they reject me? I could die. I could get kicked out of the tribe is what we biologically go through.
Right.
And these little candies were an easy way for us to show someone how we really cared and what we really thought of without being so threatening or potentially harmful to the relationship if we got rejected or if it was accepted. You could always kind of play it off. And then lastly, it allowed us to feel significant on both sides. We felt special as the giver of the candy to say, I want to give you this specific saying that says, I think you're cute, or your smile lights up the room. And then it made us feel significant as the receiver to know that someone
specifically chose that message to share with us and felt that way about us. And significance is one of our innate human needs that we all have. So instead of just giving a Hershey Kiss or some other more delicious tasting candy, these candies allowed us to play on our nostalgia, but also play on building relationships in a safe and kind of playful and fun way with someone we cared about.
Well, that is a very profound and detailed explanation for the essence of those candies, which we will now have a year off from, because I'm hearing that they'll be able to get up to capacity for next year. And let's just because the podcast here is about deliciousness, so a quick alternative that we can share with each other for Valentine's Day tomorrow.
I don't know any alternatives that have sayings on them, but Dove candies tend to have sayings inside their wrappers. So if you want to still share some message of love with the ones you love, maybe try some Dove chocolate. It'll be tasty for sure, way tastier than the Sweetheart candies or the Nesco, candies, and you can still get that little message of love out there as well.
I think that is an extraordinarily excellent suggestion on your part, Allie. I thank you for hanging in with me and explaining to people both the significance of the Necco wafers and the fact that we can look for them next year around.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Well, my friends, there you have it. Another episode. This one, episode 45. All you can eat. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody, and remember, my friends, life is short, so never waste a meal. Back next week.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on